Throughout U.S. history, there have been many attempts, successful and unsuccessful, at assassinations. Here on WatchMurray, we'll be counting down top 10 of the most unknown and the strangest assassination attempts.
Number 1. Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was the 7th President of the United States, representing the common man whose actions with the Second Bank, the Nullification Crisis, and the Indian Removal Act we all know so well. When Jackson was leaving the Capitol building, Richard Lawrence attempted to shoot him. The first shot from his pistol misfired. Lawrence then took out another pistol due to the cumbersome loading at the time, which was also misfired. Testing later showed that both guns fired on first attempt with no issues in its mechanics.
Number 2. Joseph Smith Jr., 1844. Leader of the Mormon Church, he was sent to trial after inciting a riot by trying to stop the printing of a newspaper that wrote about the acceptance of polygamy by the church. Before Smith and his brother Herman were able to appear before trial, they were met by a mob of 100 people. They were killed. However, the Mormon religion not only survived, but also grew and is one of the major religions today with a population of 6.1 million people.
Number 3. Charles Bent. Charles Bent has been living in Taos since the 1830s, but because of American occupation in Mexico from the Mexican-American War, there was a growing hatred for the U.S. citizens. Charles Bent was later appointed as the first civilian governor of New Mexico ever, and it went under American rule. A group of Hispanic and Indian rebels launched a rebellion and showed up at his home. They later scalped and killed Bent. However, the U.S. military later overturned the rebellion and executed the leaders.
William Seward, April 14, 1865. Seward was the Secretary of State in Lincoln's cabinet and an abolitionist. Lewis Powell, the same night of Lincoln's assassination on April 14, 1865, told Seward's brother that he was delivering medicine for Seward's broken jaw. The butler was suspicious and told Powell to wait. However, Powell entered the house anyways, knocked out Seward's son, and stabbed an army sergeant before attacking Seward with multiple stabs. Then, Powell stabbed Augustus, Seward's second son, while exiting. He was met by a State Department messenger, who he too stabbed before running away. The attempt was unsuccessful. In the dark, Powell had cut Seward's throat and concluded that he was dead. However, Seward was wearing a metal brace to help him mend his jaw, neutralizing Powell's attempt.
Number 5. FDR. President D. Roosevelt, who served during the Great Depression with his New Deal and World War II, was speaking to a crowd. Gustav P. Zangri was 5'1" and stood on a folding chair in order to get in position to shoot FDR. With the pistol that he bought for $8, Zangri fired 6 shots at FDR. The shots missed FDR, but hit 5 other people, including the mayor of Chicago.
Harry T. Moore, 1951. He was a civil rights activist who fought for equal pay for teachers and protested against lynchings. 2 years after manning a sheriff to be indicted for shooting 2 African American prisoners, he was met with a bomb in his house. The bomb killed him and greatly wounded his wife, who died 9 days later. His murderer was never found, and Moore was the first NAACP official to be killed in the struggle for rights.
Number 7. George Lincoln Rockwell. George Lincoln Rockwell was a Republican state senator who advocated for civil rights for African Americans. He was murdered by members of the Ku Klux Klan in the Caswell County Courthouse. His assassination was part of the plan to bring terror all over North Carolina. However, Governor William Holden brought in George Clerk as the head of the militia and arrested 100 people suspected with ties to the KKK.
Gerald Ford, 1975. In September of 1975, two women attempted to assassinate President Gerald Ford, the president who took over after Nixon's resignation. While shaking hands at a state capitol in Sacramento, Lynette Fromme pulled a Colt 45mm from her red dress and pointed at Ford. The gun misfired and Fromme believed that it hadn't gone off. In San Francisco, while entering a limo, Sarah Jane Moore fired 2 shots at Ford. The first missed and the second was deflected as Moore was wrestled to the ground.
Number 9. John Lennon. John Lennon was a member of the Beatles. Before the incident occurred, something even more strange happened. Mark David Chapman approached Lennon and Ono in order to get an autograph. After signing the album, Lennon asked, "Is this all you want?" And Chapman left with a smirk on his face. However, within only 6 hours, Chapman snuck up behind Lennon and fired 5 shots. One of the bullets barely missed his head. And Lennon was pronounced dead on arrival of Roosevelt Hospital after suffering from 4 gunshot wounds. Chapman's reason behind killing Lennon was that he wanted to be known as the guy that killed Lennon. The odd part about that was that Chapman immediately sat down and began reading The Catcher in the Rye.
Number 10. Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was the 40th president of the United States during the Cold War, who signed several treaties approving the nuclear arms reduction of both countries. On March 30, 1981, John Hinckley Jr. fired 6 shots at Reagan. It was told the public that Reagan was not hit. However, as Reagan was rushing to the White House, pain in his ribcage convinced Jerry Parr, the Secret Service detail, to rush Reagan to a hospital. Reagan insisted on walking to the emergency room before crumbling to one knee. The bullet that hit Reagan stopped 1 inch from his heart, and he was extremely close to dying, losing nearly half of his blood supply. Thanks for watching. Those were the top 10 most unknown and strangest assassination attempts in US history. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this.